Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and it's a brand new year. Yes, 2025 is here. And what does that mean? Well, we have to do a list about all the Warhammer games that you should be playing in 2025. There's a fair few good Warhammer games out there, and we have to celebrate them because while there might be 10 good games, 15 good games, there's like 90 bad games. Now, the grand majority of these titles are available on Steam, and they could be in other platforms in case you use stuff like Epic or Good Old Games, but we're going to talk about them. They're in no specific order, but let's talk about some good Warhammer games so we can start the year strong. But before anything, a big thank you to our video sponsor, Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a platform where you'll be able to pick up a lot of different games at discounted rates, even those who have just released. Gaming is getting pretty expensive now, let's be honest, so being able to pick up a discount every now and then, especially during January, well, let's be honest, a lot of us don't have any cash coming in. Christmas is a fun time, isn't it? Very expensive time, more than anything. But one game I'm really waiting for is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which you can get at 30% off already for the Gold Edition, which is a pretty sweet deal. Not only that, but we do have a monthly giveaway going on. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below and just sign up. You don't even have to make a purchase. Making a purchase through my special links on the description also supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which I think is kind of cool. Once again, thank you to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. It's nice to be able to get a sponsor from a company that I actually use on a regular basis. And now let's return to our regularly scheduled programming. Now we're going to start off strong with Rogue Trader, a CRPG set in the 41st millennium by Owlcat. This is a pretty decent game, and the reason why I omitted it in the last video is because one of my pet peeves with CRPGs, it's not just Owlcat, it's a lot of companies, they don't have everything voiced or they don't have everything not voiced. So it's this weird thing in dialogue where half of the actual dialogue will be voiced and then the other half you'll just have to read through it. However, since then it does look like Owlcat is really pushing to put in more dialogue into the game, which I very much appreciate it. It should be a one or the other, it's just a pet peeve of mine. The gameplay itself is very, very good though. There's lots of options to go around stuff, and yeah, I mean, the combat feels very, very satisfying. You're playing as pretty much guardsmen, you do have access to a space marine, but everything feels incredibly lore-friendly, the scenery looks great. It's wild that it's taken us so long to get a proper CRPG in the Warhammer settings, and I'm hoping that in the future we'll get one for Warhammer Fantasy too. I've been told that the new patch is actually really, really good. I haven't had time to play it, but one of my actual commitment goals for 2025 was to stream Rogue Trader again, and well, here we are, so I'll be starting that soon once I actually get all the streaming stuff set up again, because new PC and awkwardness. Vermintide 2 coming in next, finally after what feels like maybe 10,000 years, if not more. We have Versus mode, which means that you can end up playing as the Skaven and just try to cause some damage, which is always really fun. I honestly just wasn't expecting this coming out. It came out late last year. I'm not gonna lie, someone told me it was already out. I'm like, wait, what? I actually thought that this hadn't released yet. But yeah, if you like games like Left 4 Dead, which most people generally do, and you want to do it in the Warhammer Fantasy setting, this is a pretty good place to go. You've got a lot of different options for your characters, so you have different playstyles as you stand. There's a pretty good modding scene too, which allows for just some weird and wacky stuff being implemented. The great thing about this game is it's set during the end time, so you'll be fighting Skaven, Chaos Warriors, some Beastmen too, and even some of the big stuff like Storm Fiends, which I think a lot of people kind of like. It's the only time that you want to do something with end times. This game is definitely fun solo, but it's better with friends, so if you can get a small group of 4 people, well, including yourself, then you're pretty much golden. Same developer, same style of game, but different setting, Darktide. This one is actually my favorite of the two, which sounds weird considering that I'm a Warhammer Fantasy guy, but here you're playing as nameless characters, no named people, and just really going out there shooting all you can. This game launched in a pretty weird state and has been getting some updates every now and then, but it has been a little bit slow, so keep that in mind. It's not going to be as big as Vermintide 2 at the moment, but it's getting there with a slow and steady pace. If you're a big fan of Deathcore of Krieg, yes, you can pick up a shovel too and just start slamming your way through the enemy lines. You'll be dealing with some demons, you'll be dealing with a lot of Nurgle infestations. There's been rumors about like new content on the horizon, but who knows when that's actually going to happen. It does seem now that Fat Shark have pulled the stick out of their ass and actually getting stuff done, so I can now say, yeah, this game is fine for you to jump into rather than, yeah, this is likely going to be abandonware. The The Total War Warhammer series is by no surprise my favorite game series of the Warhammer setting, considering I've done close to 2,000 videos alone on just the Total War Warhammer. Yeah, I'm pretty hooked. But yeah, grand strategy, who doesn't want that? Bringing back Warhammer Fantasy. People even think that this success was what brought back Warhammer Fantasy in the form of Warhammer the Old World, and to be honest, I kinda think so too. It's the original Warhammer setting. You need free games to get the full experience and a bunch of DLC, but thankfully you can pick them up with discounts. The Total War franchise is always pretty much discounted in different areas, but this is definitely the biggest Total War game that you'll see so far. Loads, and I mean loads, of different races and factions to play around with, a modding community which completely excels in every way, shape, and form. It is important to note that yes, there has been some ups and downs when it comes to this franchise, a few very silly mistakes by the developers, but they're currently on a pretty big apology tour, and it feels like we're in for some good times. I don't think there'll ever be a Total War game that I'll play more than this. Not 40k, Lord of the Rings. This one is definitely my favorite, and even close to so many thousands of hours I've got on the franchise, I still can't get bored, and I doubt I ever will get bored. Gladius Relics of War is the answer to the question of what if Civilization was a Warhammer game, and it's pretty damn good. It's still getting a lot of attention, despite the fact that it's a pretty old title at this point. Having released in 2018, that might not seem old to you, but in Warhammer lifespan, usually by that point it's abandoned and a sequel comes out, or the sequel ends up killing the franchise. It's still consistently getting DLC. The last one was focusing around the Primaris, introducing these, because this game was actually out before the Primaris were a very main staple thing. But the AI is good, the map generation is good, and there's a lot that you can do with it. It's also pretty damn good on a co-op or head-to-head. I see this game lasting a long time, and that's a good thing because there's so many races and factions that have still not been implemented, so it's just a matter of time. Normally there's around 2 DLCs a year, they don't pump them out that quickly, but I think that's a good thing. I rather a slow release, but a good release at that. Space Marine 2 is a near perfect title. Yeah, I know. Some people would argue that it's perfect, but I think that it's getting close to it. The fact is, at the beginning, there wasn't a lot of operations, which is probably the mainstay for a player like me, but more and more being added, and the fact is that the developers are very dedicated to adding more and more content. This game sold stupidly well, by the way. A return to form for Warhammer 40k video games, as prior to this, a lot of them were just not really good. Space Marine 2 just gives you that fantasy of teaming up with 2 other friends, or more apparently with some mods too, because the modding community seems fairly strong here. And there's endless amounts of fun that you can have, especially once you start trying out different loadouts, different weapon options, playing around with friends. I've had some pretty damn good streams playing with my viewers, actually. I tend to play with you guys, and it is just a lot of fun. My only major complaint is that you can't play as a Noise Marine in PvP mode when you're playing as the Chaos faction. It's big sad for me. We're going off Steam right now for the one game that isn't on Steam. This is Warhammer Online, a MMORPG that released many moons ago and unfortunately did fail. This is because the developers were pushing it to be a WoW killer, and unfortunately that's never going to happen. Now, while the official game is dead, it has been kept alive by a very dedicated and awesome team of modders who have made their own server called Return of Reckoning. If you want an old school MMO, you want to relive that nostalgia, maybe by playing with your Goblin Squig Herder, maybe just going with a bunch of Marauders. There's so much that you can do in this game, and it keeps getting new stuff added in. The developers are dedicated to just adding more stuff. This is a game that you're going to want to try out. It's completely free. It is one of the only, I think actually no, it is the only private server in the history of Twitch to be able to do Twitch drops, and that's because they have gotten permission from Games Workshop to keep running so long as they're not charging and making a profit of themselves. It's an MMO that people really need to check out. If you like Warhammer Fantasy, sure, the graphics can be a bit dated, but the gameplay is incredibly solid. The Dawn of War franchise 1 and 2, free doesn't exist, keep that in mind, is something that you're going to want to play around with, especially since the modding community keeps it alive. Dawn of War 1 is still one of my favorite Warhammer games. Soulstorm is an incredible campaign. It's got that Battle for Middle-earth feel, and you can mod it, and you can add loads of different things to it, which makes it absolutely just wild. It still stands as the best RTS that we've had for Warhammer, and I very much doubt that we're going to see anything dethrone it. There have been loads of rumors that we're going to see a Dawn of War 4, which They're getting louder and louder, but we're going to have to wait and see for that. Until then, you might as well play with 1 and 2, as the stories are pretty good. Dawn of War 2 is probably the best one because there's an element of choice there. Completely ignore Dawn of War 3, there's no point there. Believe me, it's just atrocious. It's probably one of the worst modern-day Warhammer games to have released. And there have been a lot of bad games, but this one stands as, like, seriously one of the worst. Inquisitor Martyr is another one of those surprising titles. If you like stuff like Diablo in the style of an ARPG, you're gonna like this one, and it's still getting supported to this day. It's been released a number of years ago now, but recently they've just released another class. There's a lot of DLC alongside it, some campaign stuff, some classes, some different types of campaigns. I am really, really impressed with how this title keeps getting so much love, despite the fact that it's already gone through a period where Warhammer games start getting abandoned. Yeah, I've said this in the past, and it's something very, very common. I played this game for the first time about 2 years ago, more or less, and I must admit, it scratched that itch. Especially since we were all waiting for Diablo 4, and then Diablo 4 released in its state. Yeah, typical Blizzard. This one has a lot to go through. It's a massive campaign. There's a lot of enemy types. It feels great to play around with it. And it's another one that I'm going to be looking at doing another stream for. That's for sure. This year is going to be my year of streaming. We haven't started yet because I've been trying to get the machine up and running. I forgot all my settings because professional. And lastly, Warhammer Mechanicus. This one is a game that's already feature complete. It's getting no more new content, but there is a sequel on the works, and it's something that a lot of people have been waiting for. We don't know exactly when that's releasing just yet. But Mechanicus is one of those XCOM style games, which a lot of people do like. Not only that, but you might have heard the soundtrack if you watch a lot of Warhammer 40k lore YouTubers, because they use that soundtrack near constantly. I know there's a lot of people who are waiting just for Game 2 that still haven't played Game 1. I would say play Game 1. You can pick it up for a pretty good discount, and the idea here is get yourself accustomed to it, because I imagine that the style of gameplay is going to be kind of similar. They won't break the wheel here, and that's a good thing. You don't want a developer to make a game that's wildly successful, and then the sequel being absolutely so different and so far from the original design that nobody wants to play it. Cough, cough, Dawn of War 3. But that's our list. Obviously, it's just 10 of the games available just now. There's a lot of other games, so if I've missed anything or you think there's something else that deserves to be on this list, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below and suggest it to people. There's a lot of decent games like Bolt Gun, Blood, Shooters and Teeth. The reason why I didn't cover those is we covered them in the past, and it does look like those games are done maybe for a sequel. We never know. Bolt Gun might get another DLC, because they did get a surprise DLC last year. But now we're looking towards the future, and here's hoping there's some big news around the horizon. People think there's going to be a new Dawn of War title coming out this year, or at least getting announced. Obviously, a lot of people are looking towards a potential Total War 40k. Who knows? Time can only tell at this point, but have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.